and welcome. I'm Lynda Kinkade at the CNN Center. Tonight, the Ukrainian military pushes back against Russian invaders. We look at the state of the battlefield. It comes as Joe Biden heads to Europe for what is one of the most important trips for a U.S. president in decades. What he and NATO allies hope to achieve. Also ahead this hour, we remember the first female U.S. Secretary of State after Madeleine Albright dies at the age of 84. Well, the mayor of Kyiv says Ukrainians are ready to fight for every building and every street, saying they would rather die than kneel to Russian invaders. He says Russia is escalating attacks on the capital, even as Ukrainian forces make gains in nearby towns. Kyiv's mayor says one person was killed when a parking lot was shelled. But that didn't stop him from holding a news conference on the streets.
This near to Brovary, it's open information from the west of Ukraine, from the north in behind the Lutish, and there is big battle. And from official sources we receive information. Right now the small city Makariv and almost whole Irpin already in the control is Ukrainian soldier.
In the south, new aerial footage shows the absolute devastation of Mariupol, a strategic Russian target. Ukraine's prosecutor general says the constant bombardment there isn't war, calling it instead genocide. President Volodymyr Zelensky says some 7,000 people escaped Mariupol over the past day. But he says one group traveling along an agreed evacuation route was captured by Russian forces. Well, I want to go live now to Ukraine. CNN's Ben Wedeman is following developments tonight from Lviv. Good to have you with us, Ben. So this counteroffensive we're seeing by Ukrainian forces is impressive, despite fighting a much bigger, a much better resourced military. They do seem to be reclaiming some territory.
Yeah, well, actually, Linda, when you speak to people here, some will joke that the Russian military is the second most powerful military force in the Ukraine at the moment. What we are seeing does appear to be the biggest Ukrainian counteroffensive so far. Now, we understand that claims are being made that about 80% of the town of Irpin, just outside of Kyiv, has been retaken. That's significant. And Kyiv as well, another town outside of Kyiv, has been retaken, although that has not been confirmed yet. But certainly the numbers, the estimates that we're hearing from, for instance, NATO officials, who are saying that as many as 15,000 Russian soldiers have been killed in the last 4 weeks of fighting. They also estimate that somewhere between, in total, 30 to 40,000 Russian soldiers have either been killed, wounded, captured, or missing. And this certainly does put some truth into this joke about the second largest army or rather most powerful army in the Ukraine at the moment that's going around.
Yeah,
Linda?
It certainly is incredible what the Ukrainians have been able to do over this past month of fighting. I want to ask you, Ben, about some of the people you've been speaking to in Lviv, people who've fled other parts of the country. They've escaped and they're now internally displaced in Lviv. What are their biggest fears right now?
I think their biggest fears, Linda, are about the people they left behind. Keep in mind that, for instance, men between the ages of 18 and 60 are not allowed to leave the country. So the 3.5 million people who have left Ukraine are leaving behind brothers, husbands, and fathers and whatnot. And therefore, they're worried about that. And of course, many of the men have gone to volunteer to fight against the Russians. So even those who are internally displaced that we've spoken to, that seems to be their main concern. By and large, it would appear that adequate housing, shelter rather, is being provided to the displaced. In terms of humanitarian supplies, those who have been able to get out of places like Mariupol, which is under essentially a medieval siege by Russian forces, are well taken care of in terms of food and medicine and other supplies. But really, I think their worry is about their loved ones who they've left behind. Lynda?
Yeah, no doubt those worries exist. Ben Wedeman for us in Lviv. Good to have you with us. Thank you and stay safe. Well, it's a busy day for the Ukrainian president on the diplomatic front as well. Volodymyr Zelensky first spoke to the Japanese parliament. He thanked Japan for its support and asked for more.